and things like that. Like you could spend thousands and thousands of euros on equipment and stuff, but if it's something you're only going to do for a little bit, you're best off starting with lower end equipment. And if you enjoy doing it, invest the time and money into it. Hello, welcome back to Al Talks. This podcast I started 3 years ago to chronicle me starting stand up. This podcast is a weekly podcast. It comes out once a week, and this is just a small little introduction video into the podcast. So down below in the description of each episode, you can go to my Linktree and find links to everything connected to me. This podcast is available on YouTube, which you're watching it on right now, and also on Spotify. But yeah, that is just a small introduction into this podcast and everything that goes along with it. Hello, welcome back to Al Talks. And this episode, what I want to talk about is basically how to start a podcast, or at least my experience from it. Um, again, like recently, a few comedians that I know in the circuit, the Irish comedy circuit, have started podcasts themselves. A couple of them, I put links down below if you want to go out and support and listen. And basically, we were talking about, I was talking to Jack Dolan and EMI from the Trying Times podcast about rugby. And, we were just basically saying it's what equipment they use and stuff like that. So basically, you can, essentially, you don't really need, if you have a mobile phone, you can record a podcast off that. Obviously, some phones would have better recording quality and stuff like that. You can essentially record and edit and run everything for a podcast off your phone. It's very, very possible. But in terms of equipment, what you need very basically is a microphone, and then like a webcam or a camera. That's if you plan on making like video podcasts, which some people do and some people don't. So if your podcast is going to be audio only, you don't need recording equipment, but that choice is up to you. The video format is more interesting because people can sit down and watch it, and like for me personally, I like watching video podcasts because I want to see the people when they talk. When it's just a preference of mine, but also there's a couple of audio ones I have listened to in the past and enjoyed as well. So it really depends on what you want to do, because it's basically your podcast at the end of the day. So how you want to run it is up to you, 100% up to you. So basic equipment. If you want to go down the very, very basic setup route, just mobile phone, and you can do everything off that essentially, because you can edit your videos on your mobile. You can you can edit your videos, you can upload it through YouTube there, stuff like that, and you can make thumbnail graphics and things. Like modern phones are very, very powerful. Like what do I have? I have an A54 5G Samsung Galaxy. I bought this like recently enough, and it's quite a powerful phone. I do use this to make videos for YouTube, so you can do it off that. And I have recorded and edited entire podcast episodes on this last 2 weeks, which, like I said, because didn't get. I've been quite busy with work and going on holidays, so I didn't actually have time to physically sit down, and just couldn't fit into my schedule. So I did a couple of shorter episodes that I recorded when I was actually out walking. So it's useful in terms of just if you're out and about and stuff, you can quickly do things, which is handy for me because, like I said, the last couple of weeks I've been busy. And then, so that's kind of your very, very basic setup, just a phone. and then you move on to the other stuff. Like I said, you need a microphone, a camera if you plan on doing video podcasts, which if you want, like I said. Um, I've always done both. I've always done video and audio. So, well, obviously it had to be audio, otherwise it wouldn't be a podcast. It'd be weird if it's just me staring into the camera for 10 minutes. But that's kind of the basic setup. And then you need, if you're using a podcast not podcast, like a microphone, like I'm using with a XLR cable, which is a cable that basically connects to like professional microphones. You will need a thing called an audio interference. Now, I've talked about this before, but I used the one that was gifted to me by my friend for Christmas one year. A very good friend of mine who was in the Plastic Cowboys, which was a great band. Loved seeing them perform live, but he gifted me this audio interference and this because he used this microphone, which is a Rode, I think it's N2A or NT2A microphone. It's a condensing microphone. Now there's different types of microphones as well. A condensing microphone, like you will sometimes, this microphone is great, but the little problem it has, it picks up an awful. If you're using a condensing microphone, it's usually used for recording music because it's supposed to be using a well isolated kind of basically studio setup where there's like no like this microphone will pick up noise that's downstairs, outside and stuff, so it's good in that sense, but not good if you want to hear like random cars passing by or people talking in the background or just weird noises. So if you have an XLR cable, you would need audio interference. If you don't, if you have a USB microphone, it'll just plug straight in. Now, in terms of what you can use to record, I use OBS Studio because it's seen people online said it was the easiest to record with, and a couple of my friends use it. So I went with that route, and it is very, like, you can edit and stuff within this and do transitions. I don't know how to do any of that. I just use, like, how I record and edit the podcast is just very, very basic, simple software. The editor I use for the podcast is the one that comes on the Windows computer. So it comes pre-built into the program, so that's what I use. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself talking about editing. So the equipment I have, so I have this. Now this microphone is also on a swing arm, which is needed for this microphone because it is quite heavy. And I've always wanted one because all the big podcasts have one, and I think it looks pretty cool. And this is very handy if I want to show you something and not ruin everything. I'm able to show you things if I need to. Actually, what I'll do is I'll take all this stuff out because I don't use this stuff anymore. Anyway, I'll make that a little bit tidier. So there is that. So I've gone through the equipment. Yeah, audio interference. This one, because Karen used to use it for music, has input for a guitar. Now you can buy, like Rode makes audio interferences, and then if you really want to go in, you can buy a sound mixing board, which is you can adjust different levels and settings of the microphones. You see them like DJs, like not DJs, but musicians and bands that would have like one where you can connect multiple microphones to them and stuff like that. So that's in terms of like equipment. Like when I started, obviously I didn't have this stuff because this stuff is very, very expensive to buy, and like this microphone stand is about €200. This microphone is about €350. The shock mount was like another €90. These audio interference systems there about €300 each. My webcam cost like 100. I think I got it for like €80 or €90 because it was on sale. You know, all this stuff is not cheap. Plus the cost of laptops, they can order €450. So I'm talking about 300, 100, another 100. That's 600, 200 is 800, another 8 there. About €1,500 in equipment for the podcast. Now, when I started off, all I had was a Trust webcam and a Trust microphone, which was about €80 worth of equipment, and the laptop. So it's €500 altogether. So since I've upgraded my stuff, it's become €1,000 more expensive. So there is that. Next is, like I said, video editing software. You can use a lot of things. There's free ones you can use online. People back in days to use Sony Vegas Pro and stuff like that. I can't remember. I think not Adobe. What's a popular one? Not PowerPoint. Photoshop. I think Photoshop you can edit videos in. So that's kind of a popular one people use. It's a very powerful system and program you can use to edit. But I just use, like I said, the very basic one on my laptop that came with Windows operating program. So that's what I use. And then in terms of where to distribute your podcast, I start off with YouTube. I think YouTube is the easiest one to use in terms of like just how easy it is to upload videos and stuff. And there's a lot of like, even from basically once you start uploading videos to YouTube, you gain access to something called YouTube Studio, which is an app you can download on your phone. And that's where basically you manage your podcast. You can edit stuff once it's uploaded, and there is something called the Creator Studio because you become a YouTube creator. And in the Creator Studios, if you have any inquiries, you can email them and stuff like that, technical issues and all that sort of things. They're very, very helpful. I haven't had to email them yet, but they do send me, like, every month they send you like analytics and stuff like that. You can look at stuff, what's working, what's not working. And then you can what's the other thing? Yeah, so there's that. And then I use Podcasters with Spotify, which is a distribution for basically an awful lot of other platforms like Google Podcasts. It used to be powered by Anchor. I think it's changed over to something else. But that's what I use to distribute my podcast onto Spotify. And then you can have URL links to other stuff, but the only thing is not all of them accept video formats. So, for example, I don't think I can upload to Apple Music because of mine's in video. I think Apple Music only has to be audio because I don't think they have that technology, whereas Spotify does have video on the podcast, which I use. And then the other thing is like how often to upload. Well, this was a conversation I had recently. I don't know if actually with somebody else who wanted to start a podcast. A conversation I had with a couple of people. In terms of like when you start, in terms of the equipment, like I mentioned, it's expensive, but you can start very, very bare bones and work your way up. If it's something that you enjoy doing and you want to continue doing and you want to invest money in it, what I would actually recommend as well is a lot of people start podcasts and they just stop and they sell the equipment off really cheap. So if you go to like Facebook Marketplace in whatever country you live in or town, whatever, you can usually find a lot of good cheap used equipment. This microphone I have found in Cork for like very, very cheap. I haven't bought it. It could be a scam. Actually, also beware. There's a lot of those cheap things could be scams. So always make sure the things are in working order and don't send the money over until you get the product or whichever. Yeah, just be aware of that. And in terms of like upload schedule, you have to try and be consistent. Now, in the past, there's been a couple of, I think maybe 2-3 months that I didn't upload videos because also I had just personal issues and I just wanted to take some time off also. So there was that, but I try and upload regularly once a week. Now, when you start a podcast, you could do it like once every 3 months, and then start once a month and then every 2 weeks, and just kind of like, because once, like when I started, I had no idea about editing videos, uploading, or managing, or any of that. Like, social media is another thing for like promoting your content and things like that. It all got a place into it. There's a lot of different aspects of starting a podcast and stuff like that. But I think that's pretty much it. So, the cheapest option, like I said, mobile phone, because everyone has a phone. You could just start recording off that. And from then on, you can use, laptop, better higher end equipment and things like that. Like, you could spend thousands and thousands of euros on equipment and stuff, but if it's something you're only going to do for a little bit, you're best off starting with lower end equipment. And if you enjoy doing it, invest the time and money into it. That would be my biggest advice to people, because like, I still do enjoy doing it, but at other times it becomes a bit tedious and laborious, because like I said, I just run everything myself, editing, uploading, all that stuff. Oh Lord, good tired. What else? Trying to think of anything else. I don't think so. I think that pretty much is going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Quite a long one at that. And yeah, I don't think, I mean, it pretty much breaks it down, I think, really. I hope some of you find this useful, and if you start into like I said, this is advice from my experience that I've had. The podcast has been going for 3 years now at this stage. When did I start this? 3 years ago, 2021, yeah, during COVID. Probably get in trouble with YouTube for that, but anyway. But yeah, so that's that anyway. I hope you found this useful, like I was saying a couple of seconds ago, and that helps clarify some things that I've learned from my experience and stuff. Actually, another thing is, like, some people do seasons for podcasts, like record like 3 months, make it season 1. You can do that as well. I actually thought about, before I took the break, which just called it not quits, but like give it a break and call season 1 150 episodes. Now this is episode 167, so this is quite a while ago. So what is it? 17 weeks, which is it? Is it really? Yeah. What's 17 weeks? It's how many months? A month is 4, so it's like, like 4 months ago. Anyway. And yeah, I think that's it anyway. So, as per usual, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.